Think back, that thing you bought, the one everyone said you needed. Everyone had it, everyone talked about it. So you handed over your money. You felt that little rush. And then later, maybe days, maybe minutes, you looked at it and you asked yourself, why did I buy this? That feeling, it has a history, a long one, and it starts in 1637 with a flower. By the end of the video, I want you to go to the comments and tell us about a purchase you regretted afterwards. I'm serious, because what happened to you is not random. It's part of a pattern, and once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Today, I'm going to show you what actually happens in your brain when you buy something just because the world tells you to. We're going back 400 years to understand a feeling you probably had last week. Stay with me because the lesson at the end might save you from the next one. Before we go into the video, big shout out to everyone who liked my last video, subscribed, left a comment or sent a message. I love to read your stories and opinions. Your support is amazing and it makes the channel better. If you haven't subscribed yet, it really does help. And I would love to see our community grow. Now, the story. In 1637, one single tulip bulb cost the same as 3 houses in Amsterdam. A skilled worker, a carpenter, a weaver would have needed 10 years of wages to buy it. But here's the number that still shocks me. One variety, the Witkronen, rose 2,506% in 30 days, and then, within 1 week of the peak, it was worth nothing. How does an entire society decide a flower is worth a fortune? And how does it all vanish in 7 days? The answer is not greed, not stupidity. The answer is a set of traps built into the human mind. Traps you and I fall into constantly. In stores, on apps, at checkout. Let me show you how they work. Tulip mania was not a story of stupid people. It was a story of 5 mental traps that catch every single one of us. And if you understand them, you will start seeing them in your own life before it's too late. First, why we follow the crowd even off a cliff. Second, a trap card the greater fool. You have fallen for it, so have I. Third, the 5 stages of a hype, especially stage 4, that's the dangerous one. Let's begin. We tell ourselves we make decisions independently. Facts, logic, weighing options, but the truth is simpler and less flattering. When we don't know what to do, we look at what others are doing and we copy. There's a reason influencers exist. A reason restaurants mark dishes as most popular. A reason you check reviews before buying something unfamiliar. Psychologist Robert Cialdini gave this a name in 1984. He called it social proof, a core finding. When people are uncertain, they don't think independently. They look around, they copy. It's not a character flaw, it's a feature in the human brain. One example from his research. Hotels want guests to reuse towels. Standard environmental message barely move to the needle. But when the sign says most guests in this room reuse the towels, compliance jumps by 34%. No new information, no logical argument, just a herd signal. In Holland, it wasn't just rich merchants driving the mania. At the peak it was weavers, bakers, farmers, shoemakers, people who knew nothing about flowers, nothing about markets. They saw neighbors getting rich. They heard stories at the tavern, the cousin who made a year's wages in a month. So they sold their looms, their tools, their livestock, and they bought in. Not because they understood tulips, because they understood the fear of being left behind. In our evolutionary past, following the group kept you alive. If everyone ran, you ran too, because there was probably a predator. But in a market, in an online store at midnight, the same instinct will wreck you. Look at these 2 charts. One is the price of tulips, winter 1636 to 1637. One is a cryptocurrency, 2001. They're almost identical. The same curve, the same peak, the same cliff. Different centuries, same brain, same trap. Psychologists have tested this directly, and the results are hard to ignore. In 2008, researchers at the University of Groningen ran an experiment in an alleyway. Lots of parked bikes, no trash bin. They attached flyers to every handlebar. When the alley was clean, only 33% of cyclists threw their flyers on the ground. But when the researchers scattered a few flyers first, making littering look normal, that number jumped to 69%. More than double. Nobody told them what to do. They just saw what others had done. And they copied it. That's the hurt. You see enough people doing something, and your brain whispers, that must be right. Many people in Holland knew the prices were insane. They weren't deluded. They just believed one thing: I will sell before it crashes. The Dutch had a word for it: windhandel, which means wind trade. People weren't trading actual tulip bulbs. The bulbs were dormant, buried on the frozen ground. What they traded were paper contracts, promises to deliver bulbs that didn't exist yet. They were trading air. This is called the greater fool theory. You buy something not because it's worth the price. You buy something because you believe someone else, a greater fool, will pay even more later. The problem is obvious. One day you look around and you realize I'm the greatest fool in the room. Here's the question: would you buy something you knew was worthless if you believed you could sell it to someone else for more? Psychologists and economists have now tested this directly in a lab. Researchers created a laboratory asset market. They gave participants a token, and they told them something remarkable. This token has zero fundamental value. It is worth nothing, and everyone in this room knows it. But there was a catch. The token's price doubled every round, and you could resell it. The market should have stopped immediately. Nobody should have bought. Why pay for something worth nothing? But that's not what happened. Prices shot above zero, and trading continued. On average, for 5 full rounds, even when everyone knew the value was zero. Then, the researchers added a twist. In some sessions, they created ambiguity around the value. They didn't tell participants it was zero, they just didn't tell them what it was. And in those markets, prices went even higher. Trading lasted up to 10 rounds. The conclusion: people don't buy based on what something is worth. They buy based on what they believe others will pay. The key predictor was not understanding the asset. It was belief about future demand. They asked the only question that mattered: can I find a greater fool? That's windhandel in a laboratory. 400 years later, same behavior. Charles Mackay wrote about this in 1841. Man, it has been well said, think in herds. It will be seen that they go mad in herds, while they only recover their senses slowly, and one by one. First, he wasn't describing the internet. He was describing you, and me, and everyone who ever thought they could outsmart the bubble. Imagine a circle of people passing something hot from hand to hand. Faster, faster. Everyone thinks they can pass it before they get burned. Then one person looks down. The object is still in their hands. Everyone else has stepped back. That's the greater fool trap. The music stops and you're standing without the chair. Here's the thing about bubbles. They don't appear randomly. Every single one follows the same pattern. 5 stages. Once you know them, you start seeing them everywhere. Stage 1. The new thing. Something enters the world. A technology, a product, an idea. A few people pay attention. Most don't. Tulips arrived in Holland from the Ottoman Empire. Exotic, beautiful, unlike anything Europeans had seen before. Stage 2. The rise. Prices climb, slowly then faster. Early buyers make money, word spreads. Stage 3. The crazy phase. This is where it stops being about the thing itself. Nobody in Holland cared about tulips anymore. They cared about the price of tulips. Prices went parabolic. The news covered it. Your barber gave you investment advice. You felt sick if you weren't in. Winter 1636. Ordinary people sold everything to buy paper contracts. Stage 4. The quiet exit. The insiders, the experienced traders, the people who actually understand what's happening start selling. They don't announce it. They slip out while the music still plays. In February 1637, a few large buyers didn't show up to a bulb auction in Haarlem. Word spread in hours, but most people didn't notice yet. Stage 5. The crash. It's never slow. It's a cliff. Everyone tries to sell. Nobody is buying. Contracts worth a house become worth the paper they're printed on. Stage 4. That's the one. The moment when the smartest people are already leaving, but the party still feels good. If you can learn to recognize stage 4, you will save yourself. Money, regret, maybe more. There's a reason stage 3 feels so good, and it's not just greed. In 2015, finance professor Terence O'Dean at the UC Berkeley ran an experiment. 495 participants. Before trading, he showed them video clips. One group watched action films, high excitement. Another group watched scary films, high intensity but negative. A third watched something calm. Then everyone traded. The result? Participants who were excited just from watching an action movie, nothing to do with the market, traded more aggressively. They pushed prices up. The excited group created larger bubbles than the calm group, and much larger than the scared group. Excitement doesn't just accompany bubbles, it feeds them. Prices rise, you get excited. You buy more, prices rise higher. You get more excited, it's a feedback loop. And that's exactly what makes stage 4 so dangerous. You're still feeling the high while the smart money is walking out the back door. Stage 3 isn't rational, it's emotional, it's the rush, and the rush is blinding. Now I need to be honest with you. Some historians think the tulip mania story, at least the version we tell, is exaggerated. Anne Goldgar studied the original archives. Her finding: the mania may have involved only a few hundred people, not the whole nation, and some of the wildest stories, the sailor who ate the priceless barb, the sailors who drowned themselves, were likely invented later. Cautionary fables. She might be right about the details, but here's what she cannot explain away. The pattern. It doesn't matter if the numbers are exact. Something happened in the winter of 1636 to 1637, and something very much like it happened again and again and again. .com, housing, crypto, NFTs, whatever is next. The names change. The mechanism is eternal. So the question is not, did it exactly happen like the history books say? The question is, what is your tulip right now? What have you bought, not because you understood it, not because you needed it, but because the noise around you became too loud to ignore? The next time you feel that urge, the one where everyone seems to have something, everyone's making money, everyone knows something you don't, ask yourself one question. Is this real or is this wind trade? If you have a story, a purchase you regretted, go to the comments. I would love to read them. If this video gave you something to think about, hit like, it really helps. And if you want to understand more how intelligent people fall into traps they can't see, watch this one next. It's about smart, educated people who ended up in cults. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.